All right, guys, welcome to the Pursuit of Property YouTube page. I am here today with Cade Barrett. Cade, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing well.
Yeah?
So today, Cade and I want to share with you how we locate somebody's phone number if we have found their property and we feel like there might be an opportunity for an investment.
That's right. Yeah, so this video builds off of the third episode of the Pursuit of Property podcast that we just put out. You can find that on your preferred podcasting app. We had Stratton Brown on our podcast, and he was able to take us through all the different aspects of cold calling. So how he progressed from a newbie investor, a newbie cold caller, all the way to now owning and operating his own call center. So we're going to be kind of building on and utilizing the tools we spoke about in that podcast and showing you guys how it's done.
Perfect. So Cade and I have done a little bit of research. We picked a neighborhood that we have both personal experience with in sales and in investing. So we picked a neighborhood in Fresno that our team has 4 or 5 deals in the last year and a half. This has been a money-making opportunity for us. So we want to share with you a property that we've seen on Google Street View. So for those of you who don't want to go and drive, it's an option to even use Google Street View. Cade, tell me, how do we end up picking this property?
Yeah, so you kind of just touched on it a little bit. We have done, our team, 4 or 5 flips in this neighborhood within the past year, like you said. So we know it's a good area for distressed properties. And as we know, distressed properties make the best investments. So we, threw ourselves down on Google Street View, took a little bit of a look around, and we fell upon 2324 South Backer Avenue.
So when Cade and I saw this property, there's a few little things to note when you're looking for a distressed property. Yard care is a part of every property owner, and typically renters don't take as good of care as homeowners. So we noticed that the lawn was a little dirty here. The roof has a little bit of wear and tear. And then I also have personal experience with this property. I sold a home 1 street over, so I've driven past it many times, and I've always had it on my driving for dollars list. So Cade and I wanted to show you a few different tools. Cade, you want to explain True People Search for the people who did not hear our podcast?
Yeah. So True People Search, you guys can see on the screen. You can either search up someone's name and their town, and it can pull up their information. That's under the name tab up there on the top. What we're going to be using is a reverse address. So we're taking that address, 2324 South Backer Avenue, and putting in the zip code and doing a search. And Scott, do you mind clicking on that search? Oh, perfect. We already clicked on it. It'll bring up this.
So one of the things that you can know is that you can click through these different options and figure out whose property is the property in hand. Notice that this one says lives in Fresno. This is a good opportunity. You click view and it shows current address.
Bingo.
2324 South Backer. Okay, do you want to explain what we're seeing here?
Yeah. So we see that the address matches up, which is our first good thing. Right under there is our phone numbers. So typically True People Search will provide, between 3 and 5-ish phone numbers that may or may not be linked to this person, Rosalinda. And we can scroll down and see some other stuff, previous addresses. But what we're really looking for is making sure the address is the same. And then if there's any phone numbers that we'd be able to call.
Perfect. So Cade and I actually are part of the Clayson group, and we pay to be on Property Radar. Property Radar is a paid-for program. It's about $100 a month. We've been using it for about 2 years now. We've had great results with the program, and it gives you a little bit more information. So before starting this recording, Cade and I noticed that there was a few key aspects we wanted to point on. One, the property has been owned since February of 1990. So this person's owned the property for 30 years. Typically, Cade, how long is an average mortgage?
Average mortgage is probably around 30 years. Some people do the 15, but the typical is 30.
Perfect. So right about now is when you'd suspect that anybody would have this paid off. You're going to notice also they paid $20,000. Cade, is that a normal purchase price?
No, not a normal purchase price. And that's the thing with Property Radar too. Some of the data can be accurate, some can not be accurate, but $20,000 is definitely not the typical purchase price that we see.
So one of the things that Cade and I spoke about is that these property owners are 61, according to the True People Search. Yep. And so when we look at some of these properties, we can start guessing what the conversation might be like. So we suspect, based off of the fact that they've owned the property since 1990 and they paid $20,000, it's probably a property that they've owned free and clear for a long time. And it might be something that could be potentially even a headache. And so we're looking, it looks like this property's mailing address is actually the same as the address we're looking at. So, Cade, what does that tell us?
That tells us that it's owner occupied, so that these two people, Mario and Rosalinda, or at least Mario, we can see, most likely live in the residence. Yeah, same there with Rosalinda. So that's what we see if the mailing and primary residence address are the same.
Okay, perfect. So Cade and I wanted to show you how this works. We're going to just dial these three numbers just to give you an example. Now, remind yourself, this is only one property, and Cade and I typically call hundreds of properties a day. So this is something where we're just showing you the process of one property. So we're going to call 559-255-3941. Remember, these aren't guaranteed numbers, but they're going to be pretty good. We'll call. So our first number was bad. Cade, typically, what would you say a percentage of True People Search or Property Radar numbers are bad? What's your experience?
My experience, probably at least half of the numbers are bad. I would say probably even sometimes, in most cases, even over half of the numbers. That's why, and what another thing we touched upon in our recent episode of our podcast with Stratton Brown is actually, getting lists skip traced and sent to a company that has even more up-to-date reliable data. But that's not to say that these numbers don't work. I've called and actually gotten deals and leads from these phone numbers right here.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to call our next number 559-455-0460. We're calling for Rosalinda or Mario. So that's another bad number. We're going to go to the last one really quickly here.
Three for three.
3 for 3.
With bad numbers.
So this is a learning opportunity for you. Sadly, we didn't get anybody on the phone with this one dial. Now, some people might think to themselves, Cade, that this is no longer a lead. What's some other things that they can do? You just touched on a little bit.
Yeah, so one other thing or another option that you have is getting this property put into a list and having that list skip traced. So like Scott was saying a little bit earlier, some of these properties in this neighborhood are actually on his driving for dollars list, which is any properties that, he sees that are distressed and might be great investments. So you guys can see on the screen, Batch Skip Tracing is actually the reliable website that we use and actually pulls really accurate phone numbers, and it can pull another additional between 6 and 10 phone numbers that are coming from the most up-to-date sources. So this is something that we use for all of our lists when we want to call.
And I want you guys to see right here at the very bottom, minimum 50, you can start getting a price of 20 cents a lead skip traced. So you can start as low as $10. So that's less than a lunch in some places. I want you to know that you might be nervous that you need to pull a ton of numbers, but you can start smaller and it's an opportunity. I'm going to show you a quick idea of what the sample looks like. So when you go to actually upload this list, all the information you need can be pulled off of Property Radar and the tax records, and you can either manually input it, or if you're on Property Radar, they have an export opportunity. Once you have this simple information, which is all public record, that can put you one step away from getting all the phone numbers that you need to try to reach this client.
Yeah, so if you guys aren't ready to start with that $100 a month for Property Radar or a similar service, like Scott was saying, all that information, we can pull that up on True People Search. It's all public record. So it may be a little bit tedious to put in that information manually, but it's a great way to start out, especially in this business, trying to, get your investment career rocking and rolling.
Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in today. This is going to be intentionally a shorter video, just giving you a brief idea of how we pull phone numbers. we'll have to do a couple more videos in the future, actually contacting some sellers and showing how those conversations go. We're excited. We have a guest coming on later this week. He's going to be one of the best people to talk to about scripts, mindsets, and conversations with sellers. So we're excited for you. Hopefully we'll have this video out by later this week.
Thanks, guys.